Welcome to the Solo Coder Podcast, where we talk shop with coders on how to start, change, and improve your coding career. Here is your host, Aderson Oliveira.
I spoke with Monarch Wadia. Monarch is the founder of Mintbean, an organization based here in Toronto. They focus on helping developers getting experience by taking part in hackathons, webinars, and workshops. The idea behind Mintbean is very much aligned with my personal goal of helping dev students to get real-life experience and to find jobs. During our conversation, we went deep into the weeds about hackathons as I was really curious about the ins and outs of putting one together. We spoke about how hackathons can be used to help coders learn new technologies and sharpen their skills. Monarch said that hackathons are not just for advanced developers, but they can target any level of experience. At this point in time, Mintbean business model is focused on partnering with companies using a sponsorship approach. Monarch shared with me the challenges he is facing with Mintbean, but he's confident that 2021 will be a great year for the growth of the organization. I'll leave you with the visionary and enthusiastic Monarch Wadia. Enjoy the chat. And if you like the podcast and want to help, leave a comment, leave a review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast player. It will make a huge difference. Hello, Aderson Oliveira here. This is a Solo Coder podcast where I have amazing conversations with coders, developers, programmers, call them however you want, but they have one thing in common. They have the passion for coding as a big part of their lives, as a big part of their careers, And today is no different. Today I have with me Monarch Wadia. Monarch, welcome. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Monarch. I'm the CEO and founder of two companies. One is Mintbean, the other is Zero Projects. And I'm here to talk about Mintbean because what I'm doing over there is probably the most interesting to your guests, to your audience, Aderson. I do hackathons. My team does hackathons. And we're using hackathons as a way to teach software development to students right after or just before graduation. So people who've learned how to code at a certain level, they still have a long way to go until they can call themselves, experienced or good software developers. And we help fill in the gaps through hackathons.
Awesome. And we're going to dig very deep into that if you are okay with that. But first, I usually like to bring my guests. Where, how, when did you get in touch with coding?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I graduated in finance, not in computer science or engineering. And I graduated in finance. I had done 4 years of pretty hardcore stuff, options, futures, Black-Scholes, Merton. It was intense. And just when it was getting good in my second or third year, the financial meltdown just it just accelerated. It had started just around then, and it just accelerated. By the time I graduated, I knew everything about finance and about how bad the industry was, but there were no job prospects in the industry. So I was out there with resume in hand, applying to finance jobs and banks, and it was I just couldn't get a job. So I started doing retail management. I got a job at a cell phone store, started learning how to. It was, I just couldn't get a job. So I started doing retail management. I got a job at a cell phone store, started learning how to sell cell phones. They liked me because I was smart, I guess. And I started managing 3 stores for them. And at some point, I just realized, you know what, this is not what I want to do. Finance is not such a great career option, and I've always wanted to make video games. So let's look into software development. And that's kind of where it all started. I picked up a Java 4th edition reference book, and it was already way out of date. And I started learning Java 4th edition back in the early 2000s, and I just paged through the book. It was a 1,000-page book. It was a couple of pounds at least. You drop it on somebody's head and you could kill them. And I'd go where I left off that morning, kept doing it. Eventually got my first small freelance gigs, just helping people build forms for their applications. And it slowly escalated from there. And at this point, I've had many different positions, many different roles. I've been, of course, junior, intermediate, senior developer. I've done lead roles. I've done architect. Um, and a few years ago, 3 years ago, I forked off and I started my own business. Started off as consulting, just solo, and then eventually started building a team. And now we have a team of 10 people. And we consult for companies. We build applications for them. We build mobile applications, PWAs, all sorts of anything in mobile, web, and full stack development we do. And we also do hackathons. And the hackathons are a lot of fun. It started as a COVID project, just full stack development we do. And we also do hackathons. And the hackathons are a lot of fun. It started as a COVID project, just when lockdowns hit, started as a lockdown project. And it just took on a life of its own, and it's been a great success so far. We've done more than 150 events so far, including workshops and hackathons. So it's been quite a journey.
Let's step back a little bit there. So, the organization that you started about 3 years ago is Zero Projects, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And from that initiative, why did you decide to start hackathons as well?
So when COVID hit, it was interesting. We lost all of the work that we had, and it was we had to let go of a few people because we just didn't have the capacity. We just didn't need the capacity, and I was, sitting at home, and it was hard. It was a pretty dark time. I didn't know what to do and help people while we were just waiting for the next contracts to come in. And it started with a COVID-19 awareness group that I started up in my condo building on Facebook groups just to help people, and that didn't really go anywhere. At some point, people were more informed than they wanted to be, so I figured, okay, that job's done. But that same energy kind of transformed itself into, okay, well, if I can go out there and organize groups, can I organize groups for people to learn how to code? And that's how I decided, okay, you know what? Let's use a hackathon and let's do a hackathon as a learning experience. So we started our first hackathon in March of last year, and we were crazy. We started with one, and then I got addicted. I started doing one a week, then two a week, then three a week. So three hackathons a week, full hackathons, orientation, people coming in, code mentors, full challenge walkthrough, submissions, winners, everything. And we started doing three a week, and before we knew it, we were at 80 hackathons last year.
Wow.
And we've had some really great people coming in. We had the CEO and co-founder of GitHub, who was also the first developer, the person who actually developed the algorithm for GitHub to take Git history and project that onto your web browser. That individual, Tom Preston Werner, came into one of our hackathons as a speaker. We've had senior software engineers from Netflix, we've had people from MongoDB, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I think 2021 is going to be really, really fun.
Zero Projects is still the main engagement that you have, and then you have Mintbean as well. Are you splitting yourself into initiatives? Is that correct?
Yeah, we have teams on both sides handling both initiatives.
So hackathons, for the ones out there, and it's not that many, but yes, there will be always someone that is not familiar with a term or another one. Can you help me break down what a hackathon is? What are the moving parts there? What is the goal, the objective? Can you break that down?
For sure. I'm sure your students already, your audience probably already knows the word hack, but just for anybody who maybe does not know, the word hack actually originally doesn't have anything to do with computer security or breaking into government systems and stealing information or money, nothing to do with that at all originally. So the word hack, the way that Wozniak or Jobs or Gates would use it back in the 70s and 80s. The word hack actually came from maker culture, where people would come together and take a breadboard, wire some circuits together, and build a cool little machine, or break down your radio and take the transistors and turn that into a small homegrown, I don't know, a little mini computer. That's where the word hack came from. And it continues to be used that way in software development. So a hackathon is a place where you come, it's an event where you come and you build something really cool. And there's a competition element. You're building stuff, of course, because you want to build it, but also because there's a competition. There are prizes to be won, and there's a whole there's uh, a whole lot of excitement and energy that comes with hackathons. And it's a great place for software developers to go, and that comes with hackathons. And it's a great place for software developers to go and really sharpen their skills.
In a hackathon, you decide what you want to build, but there are constraints applied to that, like technology?
Exactly. Depends on the hackathon. I've seen hackathons where it was just I mean, this is stretching the definition of a hackathon, but still, there have been design hackathons and product hackathons where people come together and they're not technical and they just create designs or they create product requirements, or they create an idea for a business, and that's a completely, I think, a legitimate hackathon because that's all creative activity. But at the other extreme, you have hackathons where you're given requirements as a developer and you just have to code. And that's what we do. So we're on the other extreme where you're not coming up with the idea. You're given requirements, you're given core requirements, and you go, 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 you try and build a skill. Where if you're given the same requirements, okay, let's see who can make the better application given the same core. And then we have a basis using which we can compare different groups.
So I'm gonna put a bookmark where we are right now, but I want to step back a little bit. You mentioned that the reason why you got involved with hackathons and planning that is because it was beginning of COVID, you got some experience in your build and you said, why can't I do this for coders? And then you started doing. So how did you start? Did you go to an online community? How did you build the first hackathon?
The first hackathon was interesting. It was we had a lead up time and we were struggling to understand where to how to reach developers, where to reach developers. And the first hackathon, we posted on Facebook and we posted on a few different Slack groups, and we gathered a crowd that way. How to reach developers, where to reach developers. And the first hackathon, we posted on Facebook and we posted on a few different Slack groups, and we gathered a crowd that way in the first hackathon.
And then that started to snowball. Is that how it got going?
Exactly. The word started to spread, and people started to hear about Mintbean and about the hackathons. And the main reason that people came to the hackathons was because it was really good for their skill set. It was really good for their careers, and we created a safe space, almost like it's almost like target practice. So imagine, I'm not a hunter, but let's say you're a hunter and you're a new hunter and you're learning how to hunt. Well, you can either take that gun that you've never fired before and take it out in the woods and try not to shoot your foot off, or you can go to a practice, like a target practice range, and say, hey, no, you should hold your gun up like this and push it against your shoulder so you don't, the recoil doesn't cause the gun to flip. So the hackathons that Mintbean does are similar. We're very safe. We're a competitive space, but it's not that kind of, it's a kind of friendly competition where, okay, if you're having trouble, you can ask questions, and other people from other groups will actually step in and help you out, more often than not, because we're all over here to learn together. And it's a way for us to build real life projects without really taking on the risk of building a product and disappointing customers. Instead, we're going to build a product almost as if this was real life, and then see how everybody did. And there are winner announcements at the end. And it's a great way to build portfolio pieces to put on your portfolio and also to network and meet other people.
Tell me a little bit about the timeline of a hackathon, and I will give you, let's say, a fictitious line of a hackathon, and I will give you, let's say, a fictitious example here. Let's say that you have a hackathon planned for the last day of February of this month. So I'm assuming that there is an announcement to the community, and then there is things that will happen a few days before, and of course things that will happen during that day, and things that will happen after the hackathon is done. So can you walk me through the timeline of a hackathon?
For sure. So when you find out about the hackathon, you're probably going to find out through a friend or through your through your class, or maybe you've heard about us just by being on LinkedIn and Twitter and seeing seeing us around. When you go and you register for the hackathon, um, all you're going to be given some information about how this whole thing works, and you can start exploring the other groups have submitted in the past. And up to the hackathon, it's recommended that you start, warming up a little bit. Just learn your tools or relearn your tools. Just brush up on your skill set. Stuff that a developer would probably be doing anyway, like just coding every day, learning new things, et cetera, et cetera. We do not, we do not broadcast the challenge document until the day of the hackathon. Now, when you walk into the hackathon, it starts, you're on our Discord server. That's where we generally have the hackathons. We have a Discord server. It's grown a lot. We have more than 2,000 people on there now, and it's a really friendly place. Lots of people over there asking questions. We have channels. We have server channels for like rooms for coding questions, for career questions. We have rooms for architecture. We have rooms for design. We have rooms for React, JavaScript, and we have rooms for the hackathon. So when you get into the Discord, um, you'll meet other people. You'll start forming groups. You can find other people to form groups with and meet other people. And the orientation starts. We give you a complete walkthrough of the challenge, and we explain what the challenge is all about. So, for example, let's say it's a to-do application. I think to-do application is too simple. Let's say you're building a synthesizer, like a keyboard, a musical
Yep.
keyboard. Then we will give you the requirements for the keyboard. So the keyboard should have, you know, 3 octaves. Each octave should have 7 white keys and 5 black keys. And here's what you need to support: a keyboard, but also a guitar instrument, maybe. And maybe you can also support recording. And these are the requirements that you're expected to complete within a week. And so in a week, you're expected to build this full application, and we guide you through it. We give you all the tips and pointers you need in order to pick the right libraries. We give you library suggestions. We give you little code snippets where we know it's going to be hard for people to maybe conceptualize and build something from scratch. So we give you code snippets and library suggestions so that you can go in and just get started on your project. And in that week, you're going to have so much fun. You're going to be collaborating with your team. You're going to be building this awesome, awesome product and deploying it to the web and continuing to iterate on it in that week. At some point, you're going to hit the end of those requirements, and then you can start getting creative. So if you want to add a beat machine to your keyboard and you think you can do it in the next 3 days, fork off on a new branch and just start building it. And then merge it in, deploy it. And at the end of the hackathon, at the end of that 7 days, we get together and we as in the judges, we get together, we take a look at every single project that was submitted. We pick a winner, and the winner gets recognition on the platform, on the Mintbean website, and also on the on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter. And it's a really great way for you to add a brand new project to your portfolio that maybe you would have never even thought that you could have made before. You would have thought that it was impossible, but because we gave you the breakdown, it becomes very easy for you to understand and to build that project. It still takes a lot of hard work, but you no longer have the question marks and the uncertainty. So we guide you past that.
And are you saying that you are doing this multiple times a week?
Oh, we used to, yeah, and we might ramp it back up. Right now, it's once a week, but we used to do 3 times a week.
Wow, it's pretty much a full-time commit. Wow, it's pretty much a full-time commitment for you and some people on your team.
100%. We have about 4 people that are almost 100% dedicated to the hackathons. That's just, core team. We're not even counting about more people that sometimes we have to bring in. So yes.
How do you come up with ideas for those projects that you have a weekly hackathon? So you have to have an idea of what you want people to develop. How do you come up with that?
After being in the industry for a while, you kind of get to understand what pieces a junior developer needs in order to get into the industry. In order to hire a junior developer, you need to be able to see that that person can do. Let's say a full stack developer. That person needs to be able to do some front end React, some back end Node.js, and some database. They don't have to be perfect. She doesn't have to be the best coder. My colleagues have commented on as well, and and this conversation is ongoing. Is a lot of students who graduate have some of the pieces, but they don't have all of them, or they have all of the pieces, but they don't know how to connect them. And we try and build challenges that exercise a new developer's dev muscles. So it's a little bit outside your comfort zone. We understand that most developers coming in know a little bit of coding or a little bit of JavaScript. Okay, can we stretch them just far enough that they'll be able to pick up React instead of just vanilla JavaScript? Or if they know React, can they do a little bit more complex stuff? Can they use Redux? So we try and build challenges that are just right sized so that the average developer or the average group of developers can come in and stretch their muscles.
I always had this, I guess, misguided
Stuff. Can they use Redux? So we try and build challenges that are just right sized so that the average developer or the average group of developers can come in and stretch their muscles.
I always had this, I guess, misguided impression that hackathons were done for developers that were already experienced, that they wanted to really shine light into their awesome skills. But what you're telling me is that no, I mean, it's not just for that. I mean, you can have hackathons geared towards junior level people.
100%. And the junior level people are where I find it's more interesting because when you're at the junior level, you're learning and you're not trying to show off what you already know. You're trying to pick up new things on the fly. And whenever you ask somebody, "Hey, what do you hire for? What do you look for in a developer?" The thing that always comes up by far, not a big deal. They need some core skills, but if they can't learn on their own, then it's difficult to hire them. And for me, it's really exciting to see these developers just picking up brand new technologies on the fly, implementing them, and actually growing their muscle to learn. It's very exciting.
I'm really curious to understand the model of Mintbean. And by model, I mean you have people pretty much working full time there. A lot of your time gets dedicated to Mintbean, and the participants, I'm assuming that they don't pay anything to be part of the hackathon or things like that. So, truly curious about what is the model of Mintbean.
That's right. So we don't charge software developers for attending the hackathons or the workshops. We don't charge software developers for the various coaching and mentoring services that we offer as well. So we actually do coaching calls and mentoring calls for free. A lot of people, they do charge money for, and those services we offer in a group setting for free. And there are cases where if you're very involved in the community, for example, if you're doing code mentoring or if you're coming in and you're helping other people out, you're being active in the Discord and you're being helpful to other people, we'll actually just reach out to you and say, okay, hey, how are you doing in your job search and your careers, and is there anything we can do to help out? So I've had dozens, maybe hundreds of calls this past year with junior developers just taking a look at their resume and just taking a look at their technical skills and giving them that advice that they need to unlock themselves to get to the next step. And all of this is done thanks to our sponsors and thanks to well, two places. One is there are they sponsor the hackathon, um, and the other thing is that we have our main consulting company, which is Zero Projects. So Zero Projects is also lifting some of the load for Mintbean.
So sponsors. I don't know if you are okay on mention. Well, I guess that's one of the goals of being a sponsor is to get your name out there. So, would you like to mention some of their names?
Sure. So we've had one really cool sponsor that we've had is FeaturePeak. So FeaturePeak is building a way for designers and front end developers and product managers to collaborate on in one place. So you probably have seen this, Addison, when you're working with a design and dev team, and you have product management in the mix, and maybe you even have a customer advocate in the mix. At that point, um, shipping new features becomes a little tricky because you need to first deploy to staging or UAT, and then shipping new features becomes a little tricky because you need to first deploy to staging or UAT, and then your customer advocate or your product manager takes a look at it, QA takes a look at it, and they all want to leave comments on your product. They can't do it unless it's really hard to do that. So what FeaturePeak did was they made a really beautiful product where everybody can collaborate, and if a designer leaves a comment, it shows up on the developer's GitHub, and if the developer leaves a comment, it shows up on the designer's FeaturePeak account, and that way they can collaborate without coming out of their settings. So it sounds simple, but the impact that it has is massive in terms of turnaround and communication. It's just massive game changer for companies. That's, for example, one of the sponsors that we've had. We also partner with colleges and college. These are boot camps in Toronto. And in 2021, we're aiming to do some partnered hackathons with colleges and universities as well.
I mean, it sounds very, very amazing. I can only imagine how much effort is from your side, or I'm not sure if it's you personally, but to go after those sponsorships.
It's hard, but it's worth it. I think the main thing that we want to do over here is we want to make sure that students are learning and they're growing. And we want to build a self-sustaining system that helps students bridge that gap from just after graduation to their first jobs. Most students, they take 6 months to a year to get into their first jobs. And some people, I think a large number of people, maybe even the majority, end up dropping out of mainstream software development, and they end up going in another stream because it's too hard to get that first job. And some people, I think a large number of people, maybe even the majority, end up dropping out of mainstream software development, and they end up going in another stream because it's too hard to get that first job. And we're hoping to make it easier for students to get that first job.
You said a very important keyword there, self-sustained. What do you mean by self-sustained?
I had a conversation with people from my team when we started the hackathons, and we were talking about maybe turning this into a nonprofit because it's not something that is necessarily something that we're doing as a business. We're doing this because it's A, fun, and B, it's helping people. And we're hoping to turn this into something that's larger, that grows and that sustains itself and that helps more and more people. It's very important for me to not waste any of my own energy in doing something that's just that sustain themselves and fix their own problems. You create systems that are robust and that are self-healing. And when you want to do that for a system that's not written in code, instead it's written in business processes, you're you're creating a system that needs to somehow get an intake of energy and then do an output of work. So I know business very well. So I decided, okay, well, instead of a nonprofit, can we hack economics? And can we use the forces of economics to our advantage to do some good in the world? And that's what Mintbean is all about. It's this grand experiment to go out there and pull in resources using capitalist methods, using business methods, but then funnel that to benefit students and to benefit new developers. Because Addison, I don't know if you would agree with me, but I feel like we have a
Sponsors.
so the sponsors, they want to reach developers, they want to market to developers, and they want to have their products known by developers. So it helps them. It allows us to take their product and introduce a lot of developers to their product. Um, and that way we can it's a win-win because the sponsors, they get to expose their products to developers. The developers, they get to get mentorship, and they get to get a lot of they get a lot of mentorship, a lot of coaching, and a lot of exposure, and their networking opportunities. It becomes a win-win that way.
And is it enough to have funds coming from sponsorship to cover the costs associated with an initiative like that?
So we are a startup, and we're a bootstrap startup. So we're constantly iterating on the business model. Right now, we're not full.
To cover the costs associated with an initiative like that?
So we are a startup, and we're a bootstrap startup. So we're constantly iterating on the business model. Right now, we're not fully profitable, but 2021 we figured out the business model aspect of it, and in a way that we're seeing a possibility for this to grow really big and to turn into something that helps every single developer right out of school. Um, and it's something that we're really working towards in 2021 to make it scalable. So we've already solved the first problem, which is okay, let's get our first customers. We've solved that as a startup, but the next step in 2021 now is to grow this to even larger and eventually make it completely self-sustained.
And who is the customer?
These are all software development firms. So if anybody who wants to reach a developer is our customer.
How are you able, I'm talking about you, the guy, the person, Monarch, able to do both of them? To work on zero projects with projects that I can only imagine how many projects you guys might be working at this point, and then again, at the same time, Mintbean.
My wife and I are in business together, and that's a big advantage that we have is we both were very business minded from the beginning. When we were dating, we would go to a restaurant, we'd sit down, we'd count the number of chairs and tables, and we'd try to figure out how much money the restaurant might be making. So instead of going there and checking out the menu, we'd sit down and try and analyze the business model of the restaurant. And
Very odd couple.
a very odd couple. We'd enjoy the food, and I introduced her to spicier and spicier food, and she introduced me to more and more good Indian food in the GTA target market is. Who do you think they're speaking to? And we both run this business together. So Navi is more involved on the hackathon side when it comes to operations. She's taken on the title director of operations, so she handles the hackathons. She's also involved a little bit in the consulting. I'm more involved on the consulting side, so I handle every single one of our client projects. I'm the lead architect on. I'm the account, the go-to person, the contact person on the account. So I'm much more involved in the day-to-day architecture and dev team management aspect, while Navi is handling the hackathons and the operations. So we have these two sides of the business, and we've kind of, I don't know how we spend 80 to 100 hours a week each working on the business.
Now I understand a little bit better. It's good to have a partner.
Working on the business.
Now I understand a little bit better. It's good to have a partner at home sharing the burden.
It's a blessing, and I'm so lucky to have a wife like Navi, and it's just really good being able to work on something with your life partner that's meaningful and substantial. And that's part of the reason why we did the hackathons, was because she wanted to do something that was more fun. She's way more outgoing than me, so she wanted to do something that was fun, that was energetic, and we found a way to channel that as well.
So am I talking to the wrong person here?
Oh, well, I think if you wanted to talk to Navi, so Navi's not a developer. She's gone through boot camp and she's done a little bit of development, but she's more of the business and marketing head. I'm more of the technical person. So I can actually talk about, code and architecture all day long. The hackathons, I'm the one who generally I'm the one who generally oversees the creation of the challenge documents. I'm the one who does the process work. So because I'm a developer, I can look at the processes, I can lay them down, and I can, set KPIs for them and put the right people in them. Navi's the one who's very involved in, partnerships, in working with other communities and speaking with them and bringing in more sponsors. So she handles a lot of that.
When I checked your LinkedIn profile, I see something that says vital statistics, and I see 100 plus cities across North America and 50 plus cities internationally. How do you measure that? What is the data behind that?
So when you sign up for the hackathons, you're also signing up for the newsletter. So that's one way for us to know. Um, we have, of course, Google Analytics. So it becomes easy for us to.
Both and all of that. But let's talk about results for the participants. So what can tell me about that? I mean, do we have stories of people that, oh, it was so great, that hackathon, it gave me this, and that? I mean, what can you tell me about results?
So I can tell you a few stories. We've had dozens at this point, people that we know of that successfully found their first jobs because they were attending Mintbean hackathons and they were building up their skills. And because we were giving them resume advice, coaching advice, just continuously, being in that environment really energizes you as a person. And having that support system from other developers who are in a similar situation as you really helps in motivating you to find that next job. So some examples, we had a community member who came in the first time he attended the hackathon. He attended the hackathon and he did a community member who came in the first time he attended the hackathon. He attended the hackathon and he did not submit a project, and he came to me and he messaged me and he said, Monarch, I don't know what to do. I feel worthless because I couldn't even submit a project. I couldn't even deploy anything. I'm a garbage developer. And I said, no, you're not a garbage developer. You're new. And did you learn anything or did you not learn anything from this experience? And he said, yeah, I learned a lot. I said, well, that's good. So you're a better developer now than you were before you started the hackathon. He said, yeah. I said, okay, so let's do this. Next hackathon, I want you to submit just a blank page. Even if you just submit a blank page, that's totally fine. But I want you to give it your all. And if all you submit is a blank page, that's fine. And he submitted literally a blank page. He tried, he couldn't make the application work. He submitted a blank page. I said, okay, great, that's good. So the next hackathon, he finished the project. It was full of bugs, but he deployed it, he submitted it. And then the fourth hackathon and the fifth hackathon, he submitted better and better projects. He won the fifth hackathon.
Oh,
He
really?
actually won the fifth hackathon. Oh, yeah. And in 3 months after he started, I think 2 months, 2 months after he finished that fifth hackathon, he found a job paying, I believe he said the number was about 67.5 per year.
Wow.
And this was for somebody who, before they came into Mintbean, they couldn't even finish a project, and at the end of it, they found a job that was very well paying. There was another community member who had been looking for work for almost 2 years, and sometimes we hire developers from the community as well for our own internal team. So what we call it the Mintbean apprenticeship, and what it is if you show outstanding capabilities, talent, and involvement in the community, we actually hire you into the internal team. And we hired this person onto the internal team for a period of 3 months, and he got personal one-on-one mentorship with me about 5 hours a week or so I would spend coaching him in the beginning. Between 3 and 5 hours in total per week, with me directly, learning from me how to do TypeScript, Redux, Docker, how to integrate with various different API endpoints for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, pull millions and millions of records down into a PostgreSQL database, and then do reporting on them in a way that doesn't lock up your client's reports. And in 3 months, he did all of this under my direct supervision, and then he found a job right after. And I'm not going to say how much because everybody knows who this person is, but he found a job right after, and it was also a very well-paying job. So we're extremely involved in this community, and we're helping a lot of people out, and it's something that I wish I had when I started.
I would like to move forward here to a segment that I like to call it the fireside chat. It's supposed to be quick questions with quick answers. And the first one is, what's your superpower?
I have two. They work well together. So the first superpower is if you sit down and you explain what you want developed as a client, if you want something developed, generally speaking, within 5 minutes of listening to you talk, I know the exact architecture. I know what boxes connect to what boxes, and I have a high level idea of what it is that you want, and I know how to build it within 5 minutes. And then the next half hour of conversation, I'm just refining that box. So the first power I have is I understand how to build software extremely well. I'm just refining that box. So the first power I have is I understand how to build software extremely well, down to the bits and bytes. I've created, like I've created CPUs from scratch using FPGAs, and I'm extremely technical. Unfortunately, my second superpower is communication skills. I'm halfway decent to talk with, and I don't think I'm the greatest salesperson. I don't think I'm the greatest marketing person, but I can get my ideas across, and I can help people understand what I'm trying to say, and I can understand what they're trying to say, and convey that to other people. So I'm able to build communities, and I'm able to build teams, and that's my second superpower. So when I use both of them together, people look at me and they say, "Oh yeah, are you developer relations?" I say, "No, no, no. I'm a senior software developer, and I can build whatever you want from scratch. It's just that I understand communities. Ask me to do something that I need to do again and again for, let's say, a week or a month or a year. I hate it. So what I do is I'm lazy. I will take whatever needs to be automated, I'll automate that. I'll take whatever needs to be delegated, I'll delegate that. But I hate doing the same thing over and over again. It's not something that I'm very good at all. So I know some people can, you know, do they can do sales outreach all day, every day. I can't. I know people who can do design all day, every day. I can't. I know people who can. The only reason I stuck through code was because I kept challenging myself and I kept finding projects that were something that I'd never done before. So I can't do repetitive stuff. It's just beyond me.
Tell me about a turning point in your career.
So we didn't start Mintbean as just a hackathon, and Mintbean was my first business after.
Turning point in your career.
So we didn't start Mintbean as just a hackathon, and Mintbean was my first business after zero. Zero was successful. It paid the bills. We had a pretty solid team. COVID hit. The contracts were lost, but I knew they'd come back at some point, and they did. Um, but because of my kryptonite, I can't do repetitive stuff. I started trying to find ways to help more people, more scalably, and I started thinking about, okay, how do we create a startup out of what we already know? And Mintbean's first iteration was as a recruiting service. So we did contingency-based recruiting, where we charged a percentage of the candidate's salary if you hired them, that sort of thing. We did that for about a month or two. It wasn't what I wanted to do, and there was a lot of competition. So we iterated. We iterated from recruitment, then we went to RPO, which is something process outsourcing where the company, your client basically says, okay, you can hire the recruiting process and I don't want to know about it. Just handle the job description, handle screening. So we did that for a little while. Then we did a few different iterations, and all the while the hackathons were going on in the background. And we did a few different iterations through this until we landed on, okay, well, let's build this out for sponsors, and let's just continue growing this out from the consulting point of view. So the consulting company will continue feeding Mintbean until it gets to a point where it's self-sustaining. So it was just a constant funneling of energy from zero to Mintbean, and my own time and energy went into it as well. And I learned so much. I learned so much in the last year about how to mentor people, how to debug people's issues when it comes to technical skills, when it comes to their job hunt, how to debug the job hunt. I've become extremely efficient at debugging the job hunt. I can take many developers who just walk in, I can take them from not even getting a phone call to getting 3 or 4 final interviews in a matter of 2 months if all the stars align. And it's just it's been super rewarding, and this is a career change that's ongoing. I don't think my career ever stopped changing. I think it's been one pivot after the other.
You were talking about what you've learned, that you learned so much with mentorship. Can you tell me what is one of the lowest hanging fruits that you see over and over again, people make that mistake? It's such an easy fix for them. I mean, from your standpoint, at this point that you have gone through so many, what is it? What is one low hanging fruit?
One super low hanging fruit is fix up your resume, and don't worry about your portfolio. Your portfolio is actually secondary. If your resume doesn't look good, then you're in trouble. And it's a very quick fix if you go to somebody professional, or if you just look at resumes that work. I'm compiling a list of example resumes that really work really well, and I'm hoping to make that available soon to software developers. That's a super low hanging fix, because guess what? You're not going to get phone calls until you have a resume. You're not going to get final interviews or technical challenges until you get phone calls. And you're not going to get a job unless you do all of that. And it all starts with your resume. So fix up your resume is the lowest hanging fruit that a developer can do in the course of an afternoon or maybe a day. And fix up their resume to the point where they start getting those initial phone calls almost immediately. I'm talking about a week. You'll see results.
What is one of those fix ups?
So one of the biggest ones that I'm seeing is people are, oh, there's so many, Anderson, so many, but one of the biggest ones that I'm seeing is people are using these resume generators that give you a beautiful high color resume. And it looks good when you get it, and it feels good when you send it, and then you don't hear anything back. Two reasons. One is it wasn't optimized for an ATS system, so an automated machine, like a machine learning algorithm, cannot pick up your data because your background is all colorful and your resume is structured in a 3 column layout, and the algorithm just doesn't know where to look for what. So um, that's a big gotcha that I'm seeing is people are using these really beautiful resumes, and they're not necessary at all. A person to parse through your resume if you're using a fancy layout. It's so much better to just have a plain text resume with data organized in a structure that a recruiter understands. And recruiters see resumes all day, every day. They see them, about 100 times a day. Literally, they're screening through hundreds of resumes a day. And if you just give them a plain text format with the right structure and information in the right places where they can scan them easily, you've made their job way easier for them. In fact, one of the telltale signs of a weak developer is you have a, sorry, I shouldn't say weak. One of the telltale signs of a junior developer is that you have a colorful resume, or something with your photo on it. It's a telltale sign. And what that does is it actually turns a lot of these recruiters off.
What's your current challenge?
Biggest challenge right now that we're facing a lot of these recruiters off.
What's your current challenge?
Biggest challenge right now that we're facing is it's on the marketing side. we don't know how to explain what Mintbean does succinctly in a nutshell to anybody. And it's something that we know how to do verbally. It's something that we know how to do when you when we talk to people. We can get that idea across, not a problem. We don't know how to do it at scale when it comes to marketing, and that's a challenge that we need to fix this year. The website, for example, is it says something, but then you come into the Discord and it's something even better than that. But if you're looking at just the website, there's no way that you would know that, okay, now we have 2,000 people on the Discord. We have a community that's slated to grow to about 10,000 people by the end of the year. We have sponsors coming in. We have people like the co-founder of GitHub, senior developers from Netflix, Tesla, Mongo, Auth0 coming in, and um, all of this is just lost on the website. So we need to get better at marketing. We need to get better, way better at marketing.
Can you share a resource? It can be a book, a site, an author, anything that comes from either an inspiration point of view or maybe from a technical standpoint.
My favorite programming resource is the C2 wiki. I don't know if you've seen this one. Maybe you have, because it was the first wiki that ever came out in the world, the first wiki in the world, and it happens to be about software development and programming. And I think it's C2. If you just Google it, it shows up wiki.c2.com. There's so much in there. Go into starting points, and then just hit random page, and it will give you so many different. It'll blow your mind. There's stuff from very recent to C, C++, and COBOL stuff that you can start geeking out on, and it's all there. It's a fantastic resource for anybody who wants to really understand the history of software development and the culture of it. This is the best resource I can give anybody.
Who's someone in the industry that you admire?
Let's constrain it to people I've met. So I interviewed Tom Preston Werner, like I said, from GitHub, and he's doing this really cool framework called Redwood JS, which is he's trying to build a Rails-like framework in JavaScript, but on serverless. So you can deploy this to the edge, to Netlify or to Vercel, and it looks really cool, and I'm just in awe at the fact that this person went from being a developer to creating communities around GitHub, um, to scaling that company, to becoming CEO of that company. He's doing philanthropy, but he's also continuing to build software frameworks. So Tom Preston Werner, he's of course built GitHub, but he also built Gravatar. He built Jekyll, the static site generator. He built the TOML specifications, and he built Semver, which is semantic versioning. And it's just every time I see his work, it's just something just inspires me to do better in my own life, because he's done so much in his.
What would you do differently if you were starting again, Monarch?
I think I would probably. I don't know. I don't know. I think asking that question is dangerous, because then it makes you regret things. I don't think I would change anything. I think I did everything in my own imperfectly perfect way, and I think life is all about making mistakes. If there's one thing that I would have done is make more mistakes, and I've made plenty of them, but there's always a way. And I think life is all about making mistakes. If there's one thing that I would have done is make more mistakes, and I've made plenty of them, but there's always room for more.
What would stand out for you on a resume?
So Elon Musk, he said something interesting. He said, and this was on YouTube, I was watching one of his videos. He said that he hires people who are innovative first. And he doesn't care if you have a high school degree. He doesn't care if you flunked out of college. Doesn't care. The main thing he cares about is, are you able to innovate, and do you have any evidence of innovation? And that's something that I look for too, is evidence that you've not in my case, I'm not looking for innovation. In my case, I'm looking for evidence of understanding and applying software development principles, because I want somebody who can build great software that doesn't have bugs, and that my client that goes beyond what you know. It goes, you can be a junior developer. What I mean by technical expertise is not about actual software development. It's about having gone through a few learning challenges, being able to learn from your mistakes, and showing that you have a high, um, you're setting a high benchmark for yourself and you're learning faster and you're getting better every single year. That's what I look for.
Having in mind that the audience that we're talking to here are a lot of graduate students in the technical space, how would they go about getting involved with what we're doing on Mintbean?
There's a link to the Discord in the footer of our website. And if you go to mintbean.io, you can go to the footer, click on the Discord link, and it'll bring you to our server. It's open for anybody to join. So please come and join. We drop our events on the Discord, and we also drop them for anybody to join. So please come and join. We drop our events on the Discord, and we also drop them on Eventbrite. We also have them posted on our website. But if you're in the Discord, it's important to have a community of people around you that expose you to new ideas. And I think the best way to get involved would be just to, lurk in the channel and listen in on the conversations, ask questions once in a while, and take any opportunity you can to just have your voice heard in the Discord would be a fantastic way to get started.
Monarch, as we wrap things up, is there anything else that you'd like to squeeze in before we say our goodbyes?
I'm sure one of the questions that your students has is, how does one get better at software development? And this is the kind of person that I like working with, the person who asks, how do you get better? And my answer to those people in the audience who do want to get using your terminal and your text editor, just code and just keep building projects and keep finding places where you don't know things. Find libraries, find frameworks that you don't know, and keep learning them. And don't stop coding. It takes anywhere from a 40 to 80 hour per week coding regimen to break into software development if you're new. And if you can set everything aside and just focus on coding and do coding like I did, 40 to 80 hours a week, despite your other obligations, you'll break in. And that's important. So just code, 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 code. That's the way you break into this industry. That's how you progress. It's the most important thing that I can give to anybody listening to this podcast.
Monarch, thanks so much. Thanks so much for taking the time. Actually, let me wish you a happy family day because this is our holiday here. We are recording this in a Monday. It's a holiday for both of us, but hey, we are here. So thank you for your time. Thank you for being so open and for doing so something that is so admirable. Again, I'm sure that a lot of people that will listen to this will jump in the Discord server that you have there for Mintbean, and I hope that we can catch up in a few months to see where you are with Mintbean, with your goals that you are setting. I'm sure that it's gonna explode, but I hope that you are still okay to talk to a little podcast that you spoke a few months ago. So again, in a year, we can catch up again and hopefully see your vision of where Mintbean should be realized,
Absolutely, Addison. This was a great pleasure. I had a lot of fun talking to you. And thank you for putting together such an amazing podcast. Happy Family Day, and I hope you have a great week ahead.
Coder.com/the episode number.